This is Rogue Wing, Coraline, or Helen RD over at Starship Modeler. Welcome to the workshop. Okay, quick bit of progress update. Getting some fiddly work done, if you will. What I've done is I've strung fiber optic into the holes for the photon torpedoes. Obviously the ends will get trimmed off after I paint. And then I've inserted one of the red LEDs into the tube to light the fibers. Same thing over here with the front, or with the navigational deflector. Use slightly longer fibers because I got a little wider gap and I wanted to move the LED a little further back. But it's the same idea. You've got the fibers going into the holes with some slack to be trimmed off later. And then up into the tube for the LED. For those who may be wondering, my tubes for the LEDs started life as coffee stirrers. These specifically came from Carl's Jr., but the end happens to be just about 3 millimeters, which comes in handy since I'm using 3 millimeter LEDs. Stay tuned. Alright, a little bit of a progress report. Not much, but it is progress. I have my nacelles glued together. I've still got to go in and clean up the seams. I've already done some work on this one, but there is work that still needs to be done. Like before, I've run the fiber optics to use for my running lights. What will happen is I'll bundle these fibers into the same ones that'll be running in the middle section of the ship to get the blinking lights there. Now, as you can see, we also have working lights in the nacelles. I'm very pleased to note I have no hot spots in the nacelles from the LEDs. The single LED's got the nose of the warp engine nice and bright. And yes, folks, they are an opposing set. I'd say matched, but they're not the same side, so obviously they aren't matched. Still got some seam work to do here. May have to reclamp that one a little. Same deal with the fiber optics. And just as importantly, let's sling this one around this way. Come on, get to play. Again, no real hot spots. And the bassards are nice and bright. I've still got to run the wires, or run the lights rather, into the struts for the impulse engines. And then I could start wiring that whole rear end together and actually make some more progress. Okay, at this point, I can safely say the rear end of the ship, namely everything from the secondary hull back, is about 2/3 done. Say 2/3, because as you can see, I've got the struts attached to the nacelles. I'm going to have some seams to clean up. My biggest issue on both sides was threading the bucket load of spaghetti through the strut. Of course, now I've got to mount the struts to the end plate that'll hold the shuttle bay. But Once I get these out of the clamps, I'll get them cleaned up. I've done a quick light test. Everything still works. So, progress is being made. She won't be out of dry dock by the end of the year, but with luck by first week or two of January, she'll be out. Alright, a little more progress. At this point, I've gone ahead and mounted the secondary hull to the base pole. It's not solid in the base itself yet. As you can see, I still have some reinforcing to do in there. But what I have done, if I can get it out of the base, is I've gone in with 5-minute epoxy, glued the pole into the bottom of the ship. That should be good and sturdy. Pole's nice and heavy duty. After all, this is not a light ship it's being asked to support. What this will let me do, it'll let me run the wiring down the pipe and into the base, which will actually wind up a dual layer, giving me a little more reinforcement underneath the pole and a place to store the battery pack once I have the ship permanently mounted. Slow progress, but at least we're making visible progress now. Alright, another quick little update. Again, not much, but it is coming along. At this point, I've got the beginnings of final assembly on the back side of the ship. Still need to mount an LED back here to light these windows and these two steady lights, and run fiber from that light back to match up with the fibers coming out of the warp nacelles for the blinking lights. I ran into one small problem. The pins that were supposed to create the hinges on the nacelle struts, another case of throwing away things before realizing what I was throwing away. When I took the pieces for the secondary hull off the sprue, I tossed the sprue. The hinge pins were on that sprue. Of course, that trash went out a couple of weeks ago, so I don't have those pins anymore. So what I did is I cut a couple of lengths of sprue, actually 4 lengths, because the section in the middle here is left open to allow for the wiring to come through. But got that set up now. It's funny, I've got this end is glued into the strut, whereas the back end is actually glued into the back plate, so I can still fold the wings if I decide I want to. I will probably only keep that around until I get the back plate on, and then I will probably lock the nacelles in place to avoid possible damage to the wires or the fibers in the future. But that's where we're sitting at the moment. Alright, real quick update before I close this mess up. Gonna have to rely on the zoom because I really don't want to move any of this at the moment because some of it's not quite dry. Alright, quick explanation on the spaghetti. We've got fiber optics running here and here into the light that will also light these back windows. Here is fiber optics coming out for the flashing lights. Same with over here. Adjust this just a little. Yeah, here we go. Same with over here. Back this out a bit so we got a little better view. I've tied in the flashing, or the fibers for the flashers from the struts as well into this here. Now once the glue's had a chance to set, I'm going to put some electrical tape both as light block here and to help bind the fibers in place here. And then back plate goes in place and we close it all up. It's a slow bit of progress, but this will be a seriously major assembly once it's actually done. I've already double checked to make sure the fibers are still feeding and that the lights still work. Cross your fingers, folks. We're getting further. Okay. As you can see down here in the clamps, we have the back end. All in place. I'm probably going to have some seam work to do. I'll probably put another run of glue along the seams once I let this set up for a bit first. But back end is basically ready for the shuttle bay to be built. Once that's done, I'll start doing some fine-tuning on the rest of the ship, and we'll start seeing some major assembly.